Well, hello and welcome to Midweek Moment. My name is Ashley and I work as the student pastor at the Scripps campus. And with me, I've got Amber. Amber, who are you?
I am one of the online team here at Midweek, and I am so excited to be here for this episode of the Midweek Moment.
Yes, and then we've got a special Jess. You
Thank
are special. We have a special guest, and her name is Jess. And we're going to get into a little bit more of who Jess is and why she's here. But before we do that, I just wanted to give a short recap. Whether you saw our message on Sunday or maybe you haven't yet, we talked about prayer. And we really got into the whole point of how prayer, first of all, connects us with God. And then prayer reminds us who we are when it comes to what God's called us to. And then the third part, and the one that we're going to kind of dive into a little bit more, is how prayer shows us our calling, what God's calling is in our life. And as part of the sermon writing team, as we were writing this, our friend Jess, her story kept coming up. And so when we talked about this, we're like, man, we need to have a midweek moment with Jess and hear her story. So, Jess, who are you? Do you want to give like a quick, who am I? That'll be a 20-minute video right there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, I'm Jess, and I am the owner of Honest Thrift Studio, and I recently opened up Garden Coffee right next door to Honest Thrift Studio.
Yes, which is a big part of why we're here and talking to you, is because you've had Honest Thrift, and we have known and loved Honest Thrift, and so much of the community has known and loved Honest Thrift, but now the garden coffee aspect of it has come in, and it's come in the midst of a pandemic.
Yes.
So I guess like our first question would be, what did that look like for you? And then like, obviously, prayer is a huge part of it because you love Jesus. And so what did that season of prayer look like even in the midst of a pandemic, trying to open a coffee shop?
Honestly, it was very, I complained to God a lot. This was not how I pictured it happening. I've had Honest Thrift Studio for quite a while, and my owners approached me about a year and a half ago, or the owners of the complex approached me and asked if I'd be interested in taking over the cafe space next door to my store, to which I laughed. And I was like, probably not. I didn't have any cafe experience. I've never worked in a restaurant. I already had a business, but I knew that wasn't the right answer as a business owner to immediately say no. And so I was like, I'll think about it, but more than likely I'm not going to be able to do something like that. Also, I'm only one person, so I don't know how I would have two businesses.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Exactly.
But I'll pray about it.
Thanks, but no thanks. I'll pray about it. I'm really excited. It was a compliment. I remember feeling very good that they asked, but very confident that I could not do that. But I still beelined after work to my husband's office because I wanted to share that with him because it was exciting. And Mark is my husband, and he's just a very steady, even person. Doesn't offer opinions, unsolicited advice, any unsolicited advice. So I went in, I was like, get this. They offered me the cafe space. And he just looked at me deadpan. He was like, I was just thinking the other day how cool it would be if you had that space.
Oh my gosh, talk about God.
Yeah, and I really felt like the Lord was speaking directly through Mark, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a coffee shop.
And like, I know nothing about coffee, right?
Yes, so a ton of prayer. Maybe that's not true. I did pray, but it wasn't a ton of prayer. Yeah. And I don't think I decided through prayer, I decided that I wouldn't be able to do it without partners because I already had the store. And so I gathered a few partners. We thought it was going to take a couple months. And that's when I started to pray a lot because a couple months turned into a couple more months, turned into a couple more months. And for the sake of time, I will skip through a little bit. At about a year-ish, over the span of that year, it was very difficult. All of those partners ended up stepping away. So I was left with Garden Coffee on my own, which is something I thought I wasn't going to be able to do. But at that point, I'd already committed a year. So that's when I started to pray a lot.
When it was like just you.
A whole lot. And they were very fearful and complainy prayers of like, this wasn't what I wanted. But then you hear that and you're like, oh, Well, it wasn't supposed to be what I wanted. This was supposed to be the Lord's coffee shop, not my coffee shop. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So I prayed a whole lot more then. But it may sound really crazy, but I think Garden Coffee was always meant to open during COVID. It is a completely outdoor venue, which is insane. We don't have a single seat inside, even if we wanted to have that.
Right.
And that can only be a God thing. We also were able to open after people had been at home on their couches for 3 months and they just needed a space to be, but to also be safe. And since we weren't open before COVID, nobody came into the space with any prior expectations, which if you'd sat me down a year ago and said, okay, so you're gonna, like if the Lord had sat me down and said, you'll open it, it'll take over a year, you will do it by yourself, and you'll open in the midst of a global pandemic. I've been like, oh, thank you. For those reasons, I am out.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so but it worked. They were some hard prayers. They weren't pretty prayers. They were a lot of prayers that I wrote down and then ripped up. They're not in a keepsake journal.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And,
No, yeah, I was just going to say, as someone that prayed along with you through this entire journey, it's been so cool to watch you. I know it hasn't been easy. We've had a lot of those conversations. We've been here in the dark parts of literally dark because there was no electricity and all of that. So just watching you walk through that and seeing what it's become, I'm super proud of you, but B, it's been super cool to watch God work. And the really neat part of this, and Ashley, I know you feel it too, as soon as you walk through the big wooden doors that are right out front, you feel the Holy Spirit. You feel that this has been prayed over and how amazing and community oriented it is. And I just if you haven't been to Garden Coffee, come. Not to throw a complete pitch, but it's so beautiful and so relaxing. And Ashley and I have worked here. It's just, there's something so special.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, I'm thankful for this space. I'm thankful for you, but I'm thankful that you trusted Jesus when it would have been really easy to say, oh, heck no, I'm done. So, yeah.
And just speaking more into that, I brought my husband here one day, and as we were sitting in this booth, actually, every single person, I've cried already 8 times in this video, but I'm just so proud and thankful for you. But every single person that walked past, you've connected me with somehow, because that's what this whole place is and this whole community. And my husband afterwards was like, how do you know every person that walked through? I'm like, it's who Jess is, and who, because you're so faithful to the Lord, even in the hard places. You've created not one, but now 2 spaces that show Jesus's love and community. And
Thank you. Yeah.
So
it's
with
good
that,
stuff. That's really good stuff. Yeah. I didn't think the world needed another coffee shop where you could place a mobile order and pick it up and go get in your car and drink it rushed on your way to whatever you needed to do that day. There's nothing wrong with those places. We need those places because I too spend money there every now and then. But you can get coffee anywhere, but you can't get connection and community, and that is something that was prayed into existence. Yes, there was some grunt work to make it possible in terms of city permits and how the seating is laid out, but I could get all the permits in the world and the best seating that money could buy, but it's the prayers over this space that fuel it to be what it is. And it's really special, and they're not just my prayers. They are the prayers of many, many people. I've got goosebumps. Yeah.
And I'd say on top of that, knowing through the pandemic, what opening the shop looked like and those prayers, even now, right, as a successful coffee shop and how busy you are, I feel like I'm getting to watch you walk through another season of a different type of prayer where you're having to let go of control, right? Like this is your baby, but like you're hiring employees and being a boss. And how was that felt?
It is a roller coaster. A lot of prayer. I'm trying not to do what I did the first bit and just be like, I think I prayed about it. Yeah, moving forward, this is what I like. So it is a lot of prayer. You know, I had Honest Thrift Studio, and I ran it by myself. I had a lot of friends and family that helped, and I'm very grateful for that, but I never hired anyone there, which I knew from the get-go that would not be the case with Garden Coffee because I couldn't clone myself. So hiring people has been an opportunity for a lot of prayer. Everyone that works here, thankfully, is the best. They truly are delights to be around. I want to be around them, which is good because I am around them. But just praying for wisdom. I opened the businesses pretty young, and I never really had an experience of being under a boss that I wanted to be like. So that has been challenging of being like, well, what do I want to be like? Since I didn't have a real example set for me, which the first couple of months I was like, I just won't ask them to do anything. And then they would leave and I would
pay them to love me.
I would have to stay here for like hours doing the things I didn't ask them to do, which took a toll physically and mentally. So, you know, and I prayed through it. I was like, God, I'm so tired. It was like, well, duh, Jess, like, you know. So it's been great. It's been such a learning experience to bring on a team of people, but the most important thing is that they're nice, and the rest of it works. It just works. Yeah.
And I know I've said this to you. I would speak it into a million times, but I know just in our conversations, like you talked about how like this is hard to let go of control or to be in charge of someone. And something I told Jess is it's really cool to watch you be a boss and be a good boss.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Because I think a lot of us can all say that like we've experienced bosses that we don't like or that have been hard. And so just to have the employees that you do, I know they're awesome, but also like you have in your leadership like brought them up and loved them and taught them with kindness. We have a special one of your employees, Levi. He is a student with New Brick. It's Pastor Carter's son. And even just watching him, I was here on the first day, and he was like, you're right. Like, he was, like, so timid, and you're like, it's fine. Like, take a deep breath. So it's just been so cool to see through your prayer and through your faithfulness with God, like, it's not something you felt like you were called to be a boss, right? Yeah. It wasn't something that, like, you had distinctly heard from God, but he challenged you and brought you to that place. And, man, it's been awesome to watch how you pour into people.
Thank you. For sure. Yeah. It's easy to accept the, like, chapter title of, like, you're called to Garden Coffee, you're called to Honest Thrift Studio. But then you get a few pages in and you're like, I don't like that part. But I mean,
and isn't that such the case? Like, we feel like we have a calling, and then God's like, wait a minute, I have something else for you that it's in my plan, and you're going to have this amazing thing, but it's not promised to be easy or good. No. You know, there are hard and difficult and even ugly moments, but you've walked them with so much grace. I know that there's some ugly behind the scenes that happen that all of us go through. It's not like anything is perfect, but it's been really, really cool to watch that journey. So we're both so proud of you. We're so thankful that you're our friend, but thankful for this space. So
thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, we love you. Is there any encouragement or thing that you would want to tell people? There doesn't have to be, right? I threw this one on you as we wrap up, but
I think, well, to pray. I know that sounds so generic, but I'm a list person. I have like a plan for the day, but you know, there's like 1,000 things to do and only 10 really get done. But as long as you pray through those 10 things, those are what you were meant to do. Yeah. The other things will be waiting the next day, and half of those things shouldn't be on the list to begin with.
That's good.
And and if you just
tweet that.
Yeah. But if you just lift him to the Lord, it's amazing what he will take off your plate if you let him.
Yeah. That was good.
It's really good.
Thanks.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for Midweek Moment, and thank you, Jess, for sharing your space and time with us. And I feel like this sounds like a commercial, but we'll say it all day, every day. If you have not visited Jess and Garden Coffee and Honest Thrift, come do it. It is a gym. It's in Old Town, and I promise you will not regret it because it is a good time.
Very much so.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next time.